I'm Sarah Holbrooke. I'm the Executive Director of the Pinhead Institute and the lucky person who gets to interview Telluride's Mayor, Sean Murphy. How the heck are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Sarah?
Well, I'm doing okay, but I
Good.
just had a little eye surgery. I look like Mad Eye Moody, so I'm going to keep these sunglasses on.
I thought it was just because you're cool.
Because I'm cool.
And cooler than I am.
Yeah, exactly. And cooler than you are. Although then the reading glasses on the top of my head knock down my coolness factor by a bit. But I'm starting to find it very useful to wear reading glasses on the top of my head, because then I only have to wonder to myself, where did I put my reading glasses? And then I'm like, oh yeah, they're the ones that are on the top of my head.
Well, yeah, unlike you, I am still a little too vain to carry them around
but
or wear them up there, so
but they're
I
very
find
convenient.
I had trouble every day.
Well, then you can borrow them off the top of my head whenever
Right.
we're together.
Perfect.
Are you the kind
Deal.
of guy that walks into a room saying, where did I put my cell phone, while you're actually talking on the cell phone? Because I do that.
I don't think I've done that yet.
Oh, yeah.
but
That'll come. With
I'm
time.
turning 50 this year,
With
so
time.
it's
Oh.
probably going to be not long.
Were you part? Yeah, you were part
Yes.
of the 50s party. Yeah, for those of you not in Telluride last Friday, there was a great
We
party
had
at
a
the
tiny
Transfer
gathering,
Warehouse.
350 people
Exactly.
at the Transfer
For
Warehouse.
the people who'd been born in 1968.
And there were over 50 of us that
Oh.
were born in 68.
That's a good year.
It's like 2% of
There
the
were
whole
lots
town.
of crazy things going on that year,
Well,
including
yeah.
people having babies.
Bobby Kennedy was
Yeah.
killed. Martin Luther King was killed.
The riots on all
Some
the
of us were
campuses.
born.
Some of you were born. Yeah.
Was Kent State
I
1968?
think it was. Yeah, there's a lot going on in '68. Yeah.
Well.
But what's going on in the town of Telluride? Give us the
Well,
news.
gosh, okay. Actually, just did the state of the town yesterday at the town council meeting.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry I missed it. I
great
like that.
segue.
It's usually very well written. Tell me what the highlights were.
Well, basically, the same constant themes on housing. As you know, Virginia Placer is done. We're actually doing open houses today and this
Ooh,
evening.
can we walk by?
For the boarding house, yes.
Okay.
So
You'll
you
have to
probably
tell
won't
me
see
off
this in
camera.
time, but
Yeah, exactly.
midday and early evening.
Great.
So we have already 30 applicants for the 46 spots in the boarding house. We're hoping that after about a week or so more, we'll have at least 50 or so people.
And have you hired the person that's
We
going to manage?
did.
Okay.
We hired Max Jenkins. We stole him
Okay.
away from, I think he worked for the ski company or something. Yes.
Ooh,
So he's
controversial.
now been on board for about 3 weeks, I think.
Oh, nice.
And
And he'll
he's
review
working
the
with Melanie
applicants
Wasserman. So the two of them will take all the applications, review them. Max's charge, so to speak, is to create a cool community over there.
Nice.
So we're hoping that a good group of people gels together, and Max is going to be the on-site manager, and we'll be working with Melanie on a continuous basis as a town employee. So
Oh, nice.
we're glad to have him.
And can you rent by the month or by 6 months or a year?
We're doing 3-month minimum leases.
Okay.
So it is designed for people who, although they intend to work here, they might not want to commit into a full year, let's say.
Yeah, and
so,
how much is the monthly rent?
It's either $385 or $425.
Okay.
Singles are $425, and if you have a shared room, it's $385.
Well, okay.
So,
yeah, that sounds
so
like
it should be pretty
affordable housing here in
the
Telluride.
most affordable, I think, that you can find.
Yeah,
Unless you
so-
have a wealthy
yeah.
benefactor who lets
Yeah.
you live in your home.
Exactly, which is
So-
always good. Okay, so housing, clearly, part of the
So
mayoral,
housing, so that's
yeah.
obviously Virginia Placer. We're basically putting the finishing touches on that. All the apartments are occupied over there in the 3 tiny houses, which is
Nice.
great news. Some of you have probably been inconvenienced and noticed a giant open hole at Fur and Pacific.
I have.
So we will have, ultimately, in 18 months, we'll have 10 affordable housing units there,
Great.
as well as the parking component. And then we are also finished with all the planning and approvals required for the Lot B, the 16 townhomes we're going to build there.
Oh, yeah.
So this fall, we'll start moving dirt over there
Okay,
and building.
great.
So
Excellent.
stay
It's
tuned. In a year and a half, we'll
ongoing.
have housing for like another 175 people.
Yeah, and isn't also the town of Telluride and the county getting together to do some
That
stuff?
is our next project. We did a memorandum of understanding last year with the county, saying the county would bring the land, approximately 4 acres, to the west of Eider Creek.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, we will build the housing, the town, and we'll absorb the subsidy cost of the housing.
Oh, got it.
So I think you'll probably see 20 to 22 units out there.
Oh, nice.
I don't know whether they'll be for rent or for sale.
Uh-huh.
I think both the county and the town will keep 1 unit each for an employee.
Oh, great.
So that's good, because we want to keep all of our employees in the community and make sure that we have affordable housing for them
Right,
too.
right.
So,
Oh, that's great.
But that'll be our next design and build project.
Okay,
So,
and what other headlines from your letter?
well, on the environmental front, we're continuing to push through our Mountain Pact, CC4CA, and Colorado, Compact of Colorado Communities, and we're finally, probably later this summer, going to get to this community carbon emission reduction thing,
Okay.
i.e. what can we all do individually and what
Right.
sort of goals should we set for ourselves. We've talked about this before, but the town itself through the acquisition of green tags, or whatever we call them, has been carbon neutral since 2014.
And now we
but
need
the
the
community at
community.
large needs to
And the
do
Pinhead
a little
Climate
better
Institute
job.
is helping with the transportation, greening that transportation. Yeah, we're very excited about that.
That's good. And on the transit front, frankly, we've got the Lawson Hill service has been expanded for the last few months, which people seem to be very positively receiving.
Yeah.
We've also got a shuttle that goes back and forth to Rico now, and that seems to be full, and we may need to consider a larger vehicle for that.
Wow.
And there's been some conversation in the last couple of weeks about trying to extend the route that goes from town to Norwood out to Natarita.
Oh, nice.
And then back.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We're working. SMART itself will basically enter into a new transit contract, I think, with a private provider as of November.
Got it.
But there's great interest in the local community in Natarita and Nukla in trying to plug into the workforce here.
Yeah.
And so we are hopefully going to have some sort of an interim solution that'll start later this summer, running some sort of an extended bus link out there.
That'd be
So we should be able to get you to and from once a day,
Yeah.
at least the weekdays.
Oh,
So
that'd be
that's a
great.
good thing.
Yeah, sure.
But, so there's your environmental component, your transit component, and your housing component.
Yeah, what else is there?
Well, the other thing was, one of the highlights and keynotes of our meeting yesterday was June is Immigrant Heritage Month. And so we
okay.
had a number of members of our immigrant and our local Hispanic community there, and actually it was very cool. It was a bilingual meeting. We
Oh,
had
nice.
sort of translation things. It was like the UN. Cody Gherkin from Tri-County Health
Great.
was there and provided all these he actually translated for us
Sure.
as well. And so we had a number of people basically weigh in, and it was great because a lot of those people had never been to a council meeting before, and they hadn't felt either maybe comfortable talking, and so we were able to at least have a dialogue.
Yeah.
And part of the takeaway was, we're going to, as a town, institute a new sensitivity and racial and ethnic inclusion sort of training, so that not just our marshal staff, which was kind of one of the highlights of the meeting, a lot of people felt like law enforcement was not as attuned to the immigrant community. And much to his credit, I have to say, I actually texted him after the meeting. Chief Marshal Kolar got up and said, look, hey, there's always going to be a tension, there's always going to be a perception that we, the local police force, are somehow assisting the feds, and as we all unfortunately know, ICE has increased its visits here.
Yeah, and everywhere.
Everywhere. So we're struggling to try to find a better balance and to try to make sure that people feel like their concerns are heard and addressed. And so one of the neat things about yesterday's meeting is that there's been a working group of approximately 15 leaders in our Hispanic community who also represent a lot of the immigrant population. And they had decided to set measurable goals for this year, and one of those goals was to convince the town government that it needed to take a more proactive approach in terms of understanding and engagement with their community. So we are a step closer to that, so that's good. But really,
great.
one of the important things going forward for the rest of the year is we do need to do a better job of creating a climate of inclusion and making sure that people who feel like, they did a survey, this particular group, and it said that basically above all other concerns, there's a concern that law enforcement is stressing out this population.
Sure.
And so we want to try to ease that tension and hopefully improve quality of life for everybody in the process.
Okay,
So
good. So you're paying attention to that now because it happens to be
we are mindful. I mean,
This month.
I generally meet with Cody once every quarter, and so I've been getting the message, and there's actually a good working group of people across spectrum of our town community, Amy Levick and several of the other leaders for inclusion. So we've been having meetings for more than a year about the
Nice.
same topic and engaging with people from the community and saying, okay, what are your concerns? What can we do better? How can we diffuse this tense climate that the federal government honestly has been ramping up? So that was very effective, and frankly, it was a good engagement yesterday at the meeting. So,
great.
So
Excellent.
that's the state of the town
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Now let's talk about sales tax and real estate transfer tax.
Hey, there's good news on that front.
Let's hear
You know,
it.
the last couple months we've talked about this topic. We've been like down about 5%
Yeah.
on sales tax, and good gosh, we were down maybe 11% on real estate transfer tax a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks back. Well, as through the month of May on real estate transfer tax side, we're now minus a tenth. So
Oh.
we're effectively even.
Even with
And the
last
story
year.
is the same through the month of April on sales tax. We are even
Okay.
as well. So
Yeah.
frankly, there's really nothing to report. It's not great, not bad.
Yeah,
So,
we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
do budget very conservatively anyway, so that's still within our margin of comfort.
Yeah.
And so we will hopefully see the rest of this year pick up. I don't know about you, but I felt like 2 weeks ago suddenly town,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Everybody.
everyone
hello,
showed
hello.
up.
Yeah.
And so you can't find parking anymore.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
obviously have, We've had the Balloon Festival, which was great. I thought there were more people out there. I performed a wedding at the Balloon Festival a
Oh,
couple weekends
nice.
ago, and it was great to see people out. I don't usually go out at 6 a.m. myself.
Right, it's not
But
a normal thing, yeah.
being out in the park
It's
from
gorgeous.
6 to 8
Yeah.
was great. I mean, 5 years ago I did the same event, and I did go up in one of the balloons, and I can honestly say there were a lot more people there this year than there were 5 years ago.
Yeah, great, so it's
So-
really been growing, yeah.
And then Mountain Film obviously brought a lot of people to town, so I felt like, as of Memorial Day, town's been full again.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
I'm sure that sales tax and maybe real estate transfer tax will pick up accordingly
Yeah.
through the
Yeah, now that
coming
people are
rest of the
coming,
months.
yeah, yeah. So, there's a little bit of a budget question that I have because we
Sure.
are sitting here in the Telluride TV studio.
Mm-hmm.
And Telluride TV has been funded by the town of, in part funded by the town of Telluride through some kind of complicated machinations with regard to, I think, a cable surtax or something.
There's a franchise
And-
fee
Right,
that
and other
Yeah.
other organizations have also in the past gotten funding from town, but now, as of the council meeting yesterday, they'll all go through
CASE.
Case,
Yes.
exactly. CCAASE.
CAASE. Yeah.
CAASE. What does that stand for?
It's community support for the arts and entertainment and other special events.
And
So-
education too. They fund Pinhead. So
Yes. So
yeah,
we,
and we're quite grateful.
That's a good point to bring up. At the council itself, CASE has been in existence for decades, and we've used CASE as a very effective way to allocate. We give approximately 5.6% of our annual budget to community support.
Sure.
And CASE has been the primary
Distributor.
decision maker and distributor of those
Sure.
funds. And so we, separate and aside from that, kind of in parallel to that, we always had certain organizations that came to council directly and said, hey, could you give us a one-time grant of X, or we're really looking for doing a capital campaign to, maybe like for Telluride TV a few years ago, they needed a new server. And so they came to us. So we had certain council people, one of whom, actually two of whom are no longer on council, who made the very valid point that we
It
needed
should
to
switch
just
over.
consolidate this and let CASE do all of that.
Okay, got
So
it.
this year will be the first year where CASE does that. So
And
to
are
your
you excited
point,
about that change?
let's let the user group tell us. It should rationalize things, and we will of course direct more money toward the CASE budget.
So instead of
that
5%, it could be
it could be
12% or 18%, something crazy. Yeah,
well,
32%.
it will be greater than 5.
Okay.
That could be
Yeah.
number to be determined.
And then the groups that got funding through you won't get any less funding necessarily through
Not
CASE.
necessarily, they'll just go through the CASE process. There'll be a larger pot of money that CASE will have to allocate.
Okay.
And then hopefully they will end up with something
Akin to what
that
they were getting
approximates
before.
what they're getting before.
Because of course, we all believe in community-supported television.
We do, we
Yeah.
absolutely do.
Yeah.
And we certainly want, this community asset to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, we do.
I wouldn't, if you don't get enough or you don't get enough, whatever the issue is, come to us then
We're
and
gonna
we'll
pick your pocket, Sean. Yeah.
we'll reconsider. But what we thought was this was actually benefiting maybe disproportionately a handful of groups that were coming outside of the CASE project directly
Okay.
to process directly to the council. And so what we wanted to do is at least create a level playing field so
Right.
that all these nonprofits and all these groups
Get the
could
same
actually
consideration.
be considered through one lens and by one body, and
Got it.
that body would hopefully deal with them all equitably.
Got it,
So-
got it. Anything else from the council meeting that might be of interest to our viewers? Because I have a couple of community questions, of course.
Well,
I'm hearing something from
know,
our
we had
peanut
our
gallery. Hold that
financial-
thought. Hold that thought. Oh, I'm getting there, man. Don't think I don't have 27 questions from the community about.
Gee, you might be interested in the fire ban that we adopted
Exactly.
as an
Exactly, 'cause
emergency
we're gonna
ordinance
get there.
yesterday.
Oh, yeah. So that's part of the meeting. So sure, let's go
So
with that.
as we all are aware, the federal, the
Let's,
state.
yes, to the
and
viewers, we're in Colorado. Colorado has a bunch of forest fires right now.
Unfortunately,
and not
it
a lot of
seems to be
precipitation.
more and larger than
Yeah.
at this time of the year in the past.
Right, exactly. So, what
although it looks like it could rain today.
I know, it wasn't expected to, but.
Well, we
yeah.
did hear from the fire department, which actually monitors the weather very closely, and they were saying that the Grand Junction Weather Service, National Weather Service, was giving them sort of the indication that, and we're hopeful that the monsoon season may start here earlier than usual,
That would be good.
and hopefully will last longer than usual.
Yeah.
But-
So let's talk
So
about
what-
the restrictions. What's
Right.
going on? What can we as individuals do, or what are we mandated to do now? I think no cigarette smoking outside now.
No, that's
People have
not
talked
entirely
about
true.
it.
We did
Okay.
have a draft ordinance that did contemplate prohibiting smoking outdoors. And
It
we
has
had a
not.
number of people come to us at the council meeting yesterday and say, wait a minute, it's actually safer for people to be standing on the sidewalk or standing in the middle of Main Street
Oh,
smoking
sure, where there's
than it
no
is for them to be
combustibles.
sneaking away onto an area that has vegetation or other
Right,
combustibles.
sure, yeah. So that's
we-
not in order yet.
Correct. What we did adopt was, there is a smoking ban, except on
On Main
hardscape
Street.
surfaces.
Okay.
So if you're standing on a piece of pavement, whether it's a parking lot over in Town Park, or whether it's Main Street or a sidewalk, then you're permitted to smoke and there's no issue.
Got it.
If you choose to smoke in a vegetated area,
You'll
that's
get in
not a
trouble.
problem. That's
Yeah,
not a good thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what about filling swimming pools, hot tubs, things like that?
So that's our water restriction. That's not
Okay.
part of the fire ban. We've done
Oh.
2 restrictions in
Okay.
effect. So you'll probably recall approximately a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
we instituted a mandatory water conservation measure. That is the measure that said, as of May 15th, you were not supposed to fill hot tubs or fill swimming pools from nothing. You can top them up
Right.
under our ordinance, and that's fine. We're also asking people not to wash cars. We're asking people not to basically hose off their sidewalks for,
Right.
aesthetic
Yeah,
benefit.
and the town often would hose off their sidewalks. Are we not doing that now?
We don't do that since May 15th.
Okay, yeah, I just was
We, the
wondering, because
town.
I certainly haven't seen it this year. But I was wondering if the ban goes for the town as well as the residents.
It applies to us as well, yes.
okay.
And frankly, the one user group that's really come to us and we've tried to make accommodation for is the cemetery. Because they were having a bunch of their grass brown out already.
Right.
So by the end of May, we granted them an exception unless conditions deteriorate. But
Further.
for now, we have enough water. We're just
Okay.
being very conservative and
Yeah.
trying to make sure
What
that.
about filling like a kiddie pool, like a little splash pool? Is there like a gallon that it gets be above and then you're like, oh, now you can't do that?
No, there is no sort of bright line objective
Okay,
limit
okay.
in terms of your water
Because
use. So
Pinhead is going to have a very cute outdoor talk for kids, and we were planning
You need
on
to have
putting
kiddie
some
pools.
water in a kiddie pool to do some kind of scientific, I don't know what, but it's going to be great.
Well, how about this? Find somebody that would have otherwise irrigated and give them the kiddie pool water.
Sure,
And let them throw it
absolutely.
on their plants and shut their system down
Yes,
for a week.
yes,
So as long as
exactly.
we net neutralize that,
We will
I
net
think that
neutralize that, yes.
we're making up a new phrase
Okay,
too.
good. But I know exactly
But I'm
what you're
fine
talking
with that.
about.
I think
Okay,
that
thank you, Mayor.
that would be
Yeah,
that would
that's
be
a
an
great
appropriate,
idea.
responsible
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
accommodate the event as well
Yeah.
as be judicious with water
Yeah,
use.
and what do people do about their watering of their plants and stuff? You said the...
So we're on a restriction
Yeah.
as
Is
of
it
May
every other
15th.
day or
It's every
something?
other day.
Okay.
So it depends on what side of the street you live on,
Okay.
effectively, whether you have an odd or an even address. So that was a problem for the cemetery because they don't have an address. And so it's
That's
like,
funny.
all right.
They get
yeah.
to either water neither day or
Or
both,
both.
days.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Uh-huh.
we said to them, please just go on an every other day sort of cycle, and hopefully we won't need to ask them to stop.
Okay, so that's the water restriction.
So that's
and
the
then
water
fire
restriction. The fire restriction,
is-
which we did not have in place before, basically says, okay, no open charcoal briquette grilling, for example.
Okay.
You're still allowed to use your gas grill, anything with an on-off switch where you can, shut the propane off immediately. And so that's fine.
Yeah.
But the idea of having your big Weber grill with the charcoal briquettes in
Don't
it,
do
and
it.
you can't immediately turn it off, don't do that.
Don't do it. Okay,
So,
got it.
What else do we restrict?
Let's talk about, it's probably not your decision, but there is this the forest is now closed.
Apparently, the U.S. Forest Service decided that the San Juan National Forest, which comes all the way up to Wilson Peak, up to the other side, so basically our ridge line on that side of town, that is closed to human traffic
Yeah.
at this point. And so hopefully that will save us from having a fire incident over there. Of course, Mother Nature can still start them.
Right,
So,
but humans start them far more often, am I right?
statistically speaking, I'm not
We'll have to look that up.
sure about
We'll
that.
have to answer that
Somebody
question
at the
next
Pinhead
time.
Institute probably could figure that
Exactly.
out pretty quickly.
Yes, I bet. That will set
So
our people to it.
this is sort of, you're putting your finger though on a tension that we're trying to struggle with too, because we have some areas that are like, oh, they've gone already to the most extreme regulation. And in other areas like the town of Telluride, we're still trying to strike a balance and say, okay, no open campfires, no bonfires in town, no fireworks, which we don't allow anyway, but you're in double secret, triple probation problem if you do fireworks this year. And so what we've tried to do is basically say to people, look, we're not going to be as extreme as we could be, but we still want you to moderate your behavior and to try to, if you're choosing to smoke, please do it in a responsible way on a hardscape surface, and don't sneak off from Town Park into the woods or anything.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
And do that. So.
Yeah.
That also highlighted really what, festivals are coming up. Large festivals are coming up. And to his credit, actually Craig Ferguson, the organizer of Bluegrass, was in the audience yesterday at Town Council and did speak up on a few occasions. And he's taken a very proactive and very responsible position about his staff will be very, their message and their educational outreach to the camping community will be incredibly intense this year.
Right.
Our fire district will be doing exactly the same thing on site at each of the campsites.
The word is getting out, so people are going to be safe.
People should, realize this, even if they're coming from far and, wide and haven't heard
Right.
about this yet.
Yeah, they will hear about it when they join this community.
Right, and so we are, we're just trying to strike the right balance and trying to make sure that nobody's endangered.
Yeah.
So,
And now what about the 4th of July fireworks? Is that already completely shut down, which seems like a kind of a sensible thing, frankly, or is it still up for?
it's still open. There is an objective process that the fire district follows, and actually Chief David Wadley was there at our meeting yesterday, and he outlined what they do for approximately 2 weeks prior to 4th of July in terms of taking measurements of how dry things are
Yeah.
and what the conditions are like. And they've been doing this for more than a decade. So
Okay.
they have a baseline, and there are years that we can all remember in the last 6 years, for example, the two
Yeah.
of those 6 we had no fireworks. So we may well find ourselves in a situation where they say, let's say a week out, nope,
Too
we're
dry,
not doing
can't
it.
do it. Or
But
they could be
if
like,
we
wow,
get
the
rain
monsoon
and the
came
monsoons
early,
came and
we're going to be able to do it.
so we defer to them, and frankly, listening to their entire team, they brought chiefs up from Placerville and from other parts of the district, and really, they're on it.
Yeah.
And they are incredibly disciplined. I mean, of course, they're firemen.
Yeah.
So they have a process that they're going to follow, just like they've done in every other prior year. And we're going to obviously just sit back and let that process
And defer to
develop
them.
and defer to that decision. But my hunch is that we won't have them.
Right,
But
as one would assume, yeah.
You don't know. There was discussion at town council as to whether we should prohibit them this year, just right now.
Right.
And I think the majority of council did finally think that, you know what, let's
leave
just
it to
trust
the
these
fire,
experts and
yeah.
let's leave it to their process, because they're not going to do anything foolish, and they're not going to just do it in order to, make the tourists happy or the locals happy.
Right, okay, got it. So we're gonna be very safe, it's just that we, the town council, the mayor, is not gonna make that decision, that's gonna be the fire
We never
department.
make it.
Right.
So it's always up to the fire district.
Uh-huh.
The only thing we could be saying is, no, you can't do it, period, because they use the town park property
Right, so you could
for
say-
that. So
yeah,
we
okay.
could say, sorry, you're using our property and not for that purpose this year.
All right, so I'm
But-
pretty much out of the community questions because everybody was asking about the fire.
Okay.
So what have I not asked you that you wanna talk about?
Gee whiz,
How about high school graduation?
that was cool.
That was so good, wasn't it?
Yes, I had the pleasure this year again of attending the high school graduation, and frankly, that's one of the biggest, brightest spots. In today's world where we hear so much about negative people causing all sorts of drama in our larger community, to watch what these kids have accomplished
Bright-eyed young folks.
and to see what they're going to help solve in the future, it's very exciting. And
Yeah.
how engaged and how incredibly sensitive they are to their community, and they're just going to go out and do much greater things, and hopefully smarter than all of the rest of us.
Oh,
And
so smart. One of the salutatorians asked a bunch of teachers and actually elementary school students advice for the graduating seniors in 6 words or less, and then did a little booklet of it for all the graduating seniors. So that was real cute. I love that. That was a great one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that was nice. And I love the tradition here where everybody gets a chance to talk.
Yes.
So my high school, it was a small class as well. I think we had 78 in my class.
Oh, that is small.
And
Did you all talk?
we did not talk, and that they really, I think, would have benefited from having had that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in my year, I was actually the valedictorian in my class, but our headmaster was kind of a cranky guy, and he just decided he didn't even want the valedictorian to say anything.
No way.
So it was a strictly adult administrator
That's not what this is.
dominated
about.
graduation. No,
How things
this
have
is
changed,
like
Sean.
no, I mean, we're in an evolved, enlightened community,
Yeah.
and Charlotte, North Carolina, in 1987 was not was
not like
neither.
that. Yeah, right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
So,
the kids
but
got
it was
to speak.
it was terrific. It's actually
There was a great
credit to
graduation
all the
speaker.
teachers and the administrators here who have done such a great job
Yeah.
and cultivated just a perfect learning environment, and now they're reaping the benefits. So
Yeah, yeah, I was very pleased for all of them. Anything else?
that's really it from me.
Yeah.
July 3rd is our next town council meeting.
Okay.
If you want to be heard before then, email, call, write, stop us on the street. We're always open to what's on your mind. And so, but thanks for being a
Awesome.
conduit.
Yes,
And
always
getting
happy
information
to,
out. We
yeah,
appreciate
always
it.
happy to get the word from you, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. All right,
Thanks,
always a
Telluride
pleasure.
TV.
Thank you.
Take care.